Ladies and gentlemen, let us begin with a question. What if your existence is no accident? What if, rather than wandering aimlessly, you are carrying something? Something assigned, something entrusted to you alone. We live in an age that encourages us to ask, what do I want from life? But perhaps the better question is, what is life asking of me? If you have ever felt a sense of longing, a quiet whisper in the depths of your heart urging you towards something greater, then you already suspect the truth. You carry a mission. This mission is not always revealed in flashing lights or grand announcements. It does not necessarily require you to move mountains or command armies. No, often it is found in the simple, faithful acts of love, honesty, and courage. A word spoken at the right time, a kindness given when none was expected, a stand taken when all others have bowed. But let us not be mistaken. Carrying a mission is no light thing. It demands something of you. It will require perseverance when the road is long, faith when the way is unclear, and a steady heart when the world tempts you to abandon the task. Yet, the mission is not yours alone to bear. The same power that placed it upon you will sustain you through it. So I ask you, not merely to live, but to live as one who has been sent, not merely to exist, but to fulfill what has been placed in your hands. You may not know all the details yet, but that is no reason to stand still. Begin where you are, walk forward in faith, and in time you will see you were never just a traveler. You were always a messenger, for you carry a divine mission. Imagine for a moment that you stumble upon a watch lying in the grass. You pick it up, examine its fine gears and ticking hands, and recognize at once that it was made for a purpose. You would not assume that such a thing came into existence by mere chance. Now consider yourself, your mind capable of reason, your heart capable of love, your soul capable of longing for meaning. Could it be that you, infinitely more complex than a watch, are here without purpose? Such a thought, if we are honest, does not sit well within us. There is something in us that resists the idea that we are accidents, something that whispers, even in the quiet moments, that we were meant for more than mere existence. From the earliest days of childhood, we ask the great question, why am I here? It is not merely curiosity that drives this question, but an instinct, a deep knowing that our presence in this world is significant. Even those who claim life has no meaning cannot help but live as though it does. They fall in love, they pursue justice, they make sacrifices, all things that would be absurd if life were nothing more than a cosmic accident. The very fact that we hunger for meaning suggests that meaning exists, just as the presence of thirst suggests that water exists. The human heart does not long for what is utterly impossible. To say that your life is not an accident is not merely to speak of your biological existence, but of something greater. It is to recognize that the moment you were brought into this world, something unique entered with you. No one before you and no one after you will ever carry the exact same blend of gifts, weaknesses, experiences, and insights that you do. The world has seen countless faces, yet not one has been exactly like yours. That alone should tell you something. If you were meant to be just another interchangeable part in an endless machine, why would you be crafted with such individuality? Why would you have a mind that dreams, a will that chooses, and a soul that longs for something beyond what the eye can see? Purpose is not something that must be created. It is something that must be discovered. It is woven into your very being, just as the purpose of a seed is woven into its DNA. A seed does not need to decide whether it will become a tree. It only needs to be planted in the right soil, given time, and allowed to grow into what it was always meant to be. So it is with you. The potential for something great has always been within you, though it may be buried under doubt, fear, or the distractions of the world. But it remains, it waits, and it does not vanish simply because you have not yet seen its full form. Some might argue that life shows no signs of a guiding hand, that suffering and randomness prove that we are adrift without meaning. But this is an argument that looks only at the broken pieces, without considering the whole. A story, when only half read, may seem to lack purpose, but when the final chapter is reached, we see that every event, both the joyful and the painful, had its place. Even in our own lives, we can look back and see moments where something that seemed meaningless, or even tragic, led to something greater. A failure that redirected us to something better. a loss that shaped us into stronger people, a closed door that led to an open one we never expected. If such patterns exist in the small details of our lives, dare we say that they do not exist in the grander design? It is easy to believe in purpose when life is comfortable, but what about in the midst of suffering? If we are here for a reason, why does pain exist? That question, though difficult, does not erase purpose. If anything, it reveals it. The struggles we face are not meaningless obstacles, but shaping tools. Gold is purified in fire, iron is strengthened in the forge, and the soul is deepened through trials. The very things that seem to threaten us are often the things that shape us into what we were meant to be. The caterpillar, struggling against its cocoon, is not being punished, it is being prepared for flight. There is a reason that we admire those who persevere against hardship. There is a reason that stories of purpose stir something in us. It is because they remind us of our own calling. No one is moved by a story where the hero does nothing. We are moved when they rise, when they struggle, when they press forward despite uncertainty. Perhaps that is because we know, deep down, that we too are in such a story. We too are meant to rise, to struggle, to press forward into something greater. The world often tries to convince us otherwise. It tells us that our worth is found in wealth, status, or pleasure. But those who have chased these things to their fullest know that they do not satisfy. They leave an emptiness that cannot be filled by more of the same. That emptiness is not a curse. It is a signpost. It tells us that we were made for something beyond fleeting pleasures, beyond temporary achievements. It tells us that we were made for something lasting, something eternal. And yet, purpose is not always found in grand gestures. It is not only in the work of great leaders or the achievements of history's most celebrated figures. It is also in the quiet moments, in the love of a parent for a child, in the kindness of a friend, in the integrity of an honest worker. These are not small things. They are the threads that hold the fabric of the world together. A mission does not need to be large to be significant. The smallest candle still pushes back the darkness. If you are waiting for a sign that your life has meaning, consider this. You are here. You are breathing, thinking, longing. That is your sign. You were placed in this moment, in this time, in this place, not by accident, but with intention. You may not yet know the full picture of why you are here, but that does not mean the picture does not exist. A traveler may not see the entire path ahead, but that does not mean the path is not there. It only means he must keep walking. The question is not whether you have a purpose, but whether you will seek it. Whether you will embrace the truth that your life is not random. Whether you will live in a way that honors the calling placed upon you. You may not have all the answers, but you have enough to begin. You have enough to take the next step. And perhaps in time, you will see that every step, even the ones that seemed uncertain, were leading you exactly where you were meant to go. When people think of a mission, they often imagine something dramatic. Leading nations, performing heroic acts, or leaving behind a legacy that history books will remember. There is a common belief that if something is not grand, then it is not important. But this is a false idea and one that blinds many to the true significance of their lives. A mission does not need to be grand to be meaningful. In fact, some of the most important missions are the ones that seem small in the eyes of the world, yet they shape the course of history in ways that cannot always be measured. Consider the quiet sacrifices of a parent who wakes up every morning to care for their child. There is no applause, no grand recognition, yet the love and guidance given in those moments shape a life. A kind word spoken to someone in despair might seem insignificant, but it could be the very thing that gives them the strength to keep going. A worker who chooses honesty over deception may think his integrity goes unnoticed, but he sets an example for others. These acts are not recorded in history books, but they matter. They carry weight. The world often measures significance by size, by the number of people reached, by the level of attention gained, by the magnitude of visible impact. But true meaning is not always found in numbers. If a single action changes the course of even one life, is it not significant? If a small decision alters the direction of a future event, does it not carry meaning? There are countless stories of great figures who were shaped by unknown individuals, a teacher who inspired a student to believe in themselves, a friend who encouraged someone in a moment of doubt, a stranger whose kindness left a lasting impression. These are the unseen forces that shape the world. People often hesitate to embrace their mission because they believe it must be something extraordinary. They wait for a sign, a moment of revelation, something that clearly announces their purpose. But a mission is often revealed not in a single moment, but in a series of small, faithful steps. It is not always about doing something completely new. Sometimes it is about doing what is already before you with a deeper sense of purpose. The role you play in your family, your friendships, your community, these are not accidents. They are places where you have been positioned for a reason. There is a temptation to compare one's mission to that of others. Some will look at those in positions of great influence and feel as though their own contribution is insignificant. But this is a mistake. A body is not made of only one part. Every organ, every cell has its role. A small cog in a great machine may not seem important, but remove it and the entire system suffers. The same is true of people. The person who cleans the streets ensures the city runs smoothly. The one who listens to another's troubles brings comfort where it is needed. The one who works faithfully in a quiet profession may never be famous, but they are still serving a purpose. A mission is not measured by how many people see it, but by the impact it has. Some of the most meaningful moments in history were not witnessed by crowds. A single conversation can plant an idea that will later grow into something far greater. A single act of kindness can set off a chain reaction that changes countless lives. A person who chooses to stand for what is right, even when no one is watching, is fulfilling a mission that matters. It is easy to overlook the importance of what seems small. A seed buried in the ground appears insignificant, but given time, it becomes a towering tree. A drop of water seems powerless, but over years, it can carve through rock. So it is with the daily, quiet choices people make. They may not seem grand in the moment, but they shape lives, they shape futures, they shape the world. Some of the greatest missions in history began with small acts: a letter written, a hand extended in friendship, a moment of courage in the face of fear. These things did not seem world-changing when they happened, yet they became the foundation for something far greater. Many who changed the world never set out to do so. They simply did what was right, what was necessary, what was placed before them, and in doing so, they fulfilled their mission. There is a kind of pressure that comes with the belief that a mission must be extraordinary. It can make people feel as though they are failing if they do not achieve something visibly great. But true purpose is not about visibility. It is about faithfulness. It is about doing what one is called to do, even when no one else recognizes it. It is about understanding that significance is not always loud, not always dramatic, but it is always real. Some missions are quiet. They are lived out in the background, in the steady, unnoticed acts of love, kindness, and perseverance. But they are no less meaningful than the ones that gain attention. A life lived with integrity, a heart that chooses compassion, a voice that speaks truth even in small circles. These things matter. They shape the fabric of the world. They may not be celebrated, but they are essential. In the end, what matters is not how grand a mission appears, but whether it is fulfilled. There are no small purposes, only unseen ones, and those who embrace the quiet, faithful work of their mission, no matter how ordinary it seems, will find that it was always meaningful. To carry a mission is not a light thing. It is not merely about having a sense of direction or a task to complete. It is about stepping into something greater than oneself, something that demands both strength and humility. A mission is not simply a goal, it is a calling, something that must be pursued even when the road is difficult, even when the cost is high. And to walk that road, one must hold two things in tension: courage and surrender. Without courage, the mission will be abandoned at the first sign of hardship. Without surrender, it will become a burden too heavy to bear. Courage is necessary because a mission is rarely easy. It calls a person to step beyond what is comfortable, to move forward even when the destination is uncertain. Fear will always try to keep people from their purpose. It will whisper that they are not strong enough, not capable enough, not worthy enough. It will present obstacles that seem insurmountable. And yet, courage is not the absence of fear. It is the choice to move forward in spite of it. It is the understanding that fear does not have the final word. There will always be reasons to hesitate, to turn back, to choose an easier path. The world is full of distractions, full of voices that say the mission is too difficult, too unrealistic, too costly. But courage is what enables a person to silence those voices and press on. It is the force that allows them to keep going when the way is unclear, when the results are not immediate, when they feel alone. Every great mission in history was met with opposition. Those who carried it forward did not do so because they had no doubts, but because they refused to let those doubts define their actions. Yet courage alone is not enough. A mission is not something that can be carried by sheer force of will. There comes a point where strength reaches its limit, where control slips from one's hands, where the weight of the task becomes overwhelming. This is where surrender is necessary. Not surrender in the sense of giving up, but in the sense of letting go of the need to control every step. It is the recognition that a mission is not something one carries alone. Surrender requires trust. It requires the willingness to accept that the path may not always make sense, that the timing may not always be what was expected. It is the understanding that carrying a mission does not mean knowing every answer in advance. It means being willing to take the next step, even when the full picture is unclear. Many people abandon their mission, not because they lack courage, but because they are unwilling to surrender control. They want certainty, assurance that every effort will succeed, that every difficulty will be met with immediate solutions. But a mission does not work that way. It requires faith in something beyond oneself. There is a paradox in carrying a mission. It demands both strength and release, both determination and humility. It calls for effort, but also for trust. Those who try to carry it through sheer force often find themselves exhausted, discouraged, and disillusioned. But those who understand that they are not alone, that they are part of something greater, find that they have the endurance to continue. They realize that they do not have to carry every burden, solve every problem, or understand every challenge. Their role is to walk forward, to do what they can, and to trust that what is beyond their control is in the hands of something greater. To carry a mission is to live with both boldness and surrender, with both fierce determination and quiet trust. It is to embrace the reality that the journey will be difficult, that setbacks will come, that doubts will arise. But it is also to know that these challenges do not mean failure. They are part of the process, part of the refining, part of what shapes the person for the task ahead. There will be moments when courage is needed more than anything else, moments when everything seems to stand against the mission, when giving up seems like the easier choice. And there will be moments when surrender is the only way forward, when holding on too tightly only leads to frustration, when the path ahead requires trust more than effort. Wisdom is knowing when to stand firm and when to let go, when to fight and when to yield. Many who have carried great missions have faced moments of despair. They have questioned whether they were truly meant for the task, whether they had the strength to continue. And yet, they pressed on, not because they had all the answers, but because they understood that the mission was greater than their fears. They knew that their role was not to control everything, but to be faithful to what was placed before them. There is no mission worth carrying that does not demand both courage and surrender. The path will never be entirely clear, the obstacles will never disappear completely, the doubts will never vanish entirely, but those who understand that courage and surrender are not opposites, but partners, will find the strength to carry on. They will discover that the mission, though difficult, is possible, not because they are strong enough on their own, but because they have learned to rely on something greater than themselves.